Hello, welcome to the second session of Data Analytics with Python for Beginners. Today, we'll be looking at functions, arrays, and plots. All right. So for functions, typically they are programs to process numbers or data, right? Which can be numbers or strings or some other things, right? We will process this data, and with that, we will generate an output. All right. For example, right? We have inputs, and we will, in the input function, we will call on to some parameters, and then these parameters are passed into the functions for processing. And after processing, they will come up with an outcome. All right, let's do the practice together in Python. As usual, the slides will be on the left, and then the program will be on the right. All right, so we'll go to Data Analytics with Python. Let's create a new Python file. Go to New, and then Python 3. All right, let's add more rows. All right, let's use the first function. We did this in the last session, but let's do it again. Right, for example, we call the integer function, and the parameters is 3.2. So essentially, we pass 3.2 into the integer function. And then when we hit Shift Enter, right, the result will be 3, right? Because integer of 3.2 is only 3. The other one is a float, where you want to, where we pass the parameters 47 into the function float, and the output is 47.0. All right. So for more functions, you can refer to this link. All right. Now, not all functions are what we want. All right. So we have to develop our own functions, and typically, to do that, we will define a function with the name, and then with some parameters in the function. And after we have defined it, we will ask the program or the function to run to do something, and it will generate an outcome. All right, let's try this. Right, let's create a function of y whereby the parameters are a and b. After that, all right, we compute y. Right, and this y is computed from 2 multiplied by a plus 3 multiplied by b. And the output of the function, we want to return y. That means the output of y is returned. All right, let's copy this and then paste it here. All right, so as we know, when there's a semicolon here, basically it means that there's a following up, codes correspondingly. All right, so what we do is we just delete and enter. You can see that this is a tab, right? Meaning that the first 2 lines are related. Same thing for return to y, right? Because all these are part of the function. All right, so let's hit Shift Enter. Right, so we have defined a function y. Now let's call out y, but now we want to let a to be 4 and b to be 10. Right, so let's copy this part into here. Right, a will be b, 4 will be a, 10 will be b. Right, so we pass 4 and 10 into the y function, and then they'll generate a y. All right, let's hit Shift Enter. So you'll give us 38. So it means that 4 multiplied by 2 plus 10 multiplied by 3, you'll get 38. All right, so this is a very simple user-defined function. right? So let's try another one. All right. So here we define the sales function with the inputs units as well as the price. After that, we generate a new variable called sales. And this sales is found by the number of units multiplied by the price. And then the function will output the sales number. All right, so let's copy and paste this. Right, as usual. All right, let's format it and then hit Shift Enter. So we have defined the sales function. Next part, right? Let's key in this. Let's copy this. What this does is that this function input will ask the user to input the number of units that they sell. Right. After that, we will convert whatever they input into integer. Right. This is because when whatever they input, right, they will generate a string output. All right. So we need to convert the string output into an integer. Right. Let's copy this. And paste it here. Right. You can see that there's a hex here. All right. And you can see that this double set quotation is not correct. Many times it happens, especially when we copy from documents and paste it into Python. So usually what it does is it doesn't have the curly part of the quotation. It's simply straight part. All right, so we need to delete and replace it. And the other one, you can see that there's a hex. Hex means that whatever is after the hex sign, right, is for commentary. Right, you may want to write some comments to remind yourself what is this about. All right, things that you don't want the program to run. All right, so in this case, we will ask the user to input how many units they sell, and whatever they sell will be outcome will be in a string form. And then after that, we use integer to convert the string into an integer, and then we call this the units. Right, like hit Shift Enter. Right, how many units did you sell? Let's hit 10. All right, so we have sold 10 units. Next part, right here. Let's copy the next line. Right, same thing here. Right, make sure that the quotation mark is correct. Right, so now we are asking the user what is the selling price. Again, whatever they input will be in string, and we are going to convert that into float. All right, so we hit Shift Enter. Let's say they sold it by the selling price $12. Okay, so you sold 10 units. Each unit you sold for $12. Now we want to print the sales. So total, how much sales is that for you? Right. So we print out using the sales function and input the units that you have keyed in just now, as well as the selling price. All right, and then we hit Shift Enter. So the sales is 120, which is 12 times 10. Alternatively, you can print the sales, but with some narration behind the numbers. Right. So you print the total sales is $, and then you have a curly bracket. So this curly bracket is basically corresponds to the sales number here. All right, which we use the dot format. Right. So this sales number, right, will go into in the curly brackets. Let's hit Shift Enter. Right. So that's what we get. Total sales is $120. Right. So those are functions. Right. The next part we want to talk about is array. But before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about packages. So in Python, there are many packages that we are going to use. One of the reasons why we use Python is really because there are many packages out there that we can use. We don't have to write our own functions and other programs, right? So it make it easier, all right? So for each package, right, they are, or libraries, sometimes they are called, right, they are separated into modules. And in each module, there will be functions or methods. And then within each functions and method, right, your outcome, you have the lower level of objects and parameters, right? So these are the levels, right, whereby the different packages are distilled, all right? So for Jupyter Notebook, some packages are pre-installed, right? So we don't have to install them. All you need to do is to simply import them, right? For example, one of the package is called NumPy, right? So we import NumPy and we call this NumPy as NP, right? It's really a short form for every time we call NumPy. This NP is basically an alias, another name for NumPy that we call. All right, so that's how copy and paste. Yeah, right. So every time we call NP, essentially we are calling NumPy, right? So NumPy is useful for applying it to arrays. All right, there are some other packages that you can look up. You can go to this link to look up for the libraries. For our purpose today, we are just going to use NumPy for arrays. Right, array is basically a special variable. They can hold more than one value at one time. And you have to think about array as a multi-dimensional data, right? Not 2 or 3, but multiple, right? Because they can hold as many dimensions as they can. All right, let's use our cars example, right? So first of all, let's create a car list. If you still remember, if a square bracket is a list, right? Just copy this. We'll create a car list and then hit Shift Enter. After that, create a trucks list. Right, copy and paste it here. And then Shift Enter. All right, now we want to combine these two lists into an array. All right. So we could call the arrays cars underscore trucks, and then equals to NumPy, because the NumPy allows you to convert them into array, right? NumPy dot array cars and trucks. All right, and then after that we print out the array of cars underscore trucks. All right, let's copy and paste it here. Right, so you have an array, and in the array there are lists, right, of cars, and then there's a list of trucks. All right, so that's how you combine two lists into an array. Right, the next part, if you want to access the elements in the array or the items in the array, we use the index operator, which is the square brackets, similar to what we did last session. All right, and then for arrays, you have to think about it as a n-dimensional arrays, right? So that there are different dimensions in terms of each list, and then within each list, what is the item number? Okay. So for example, we can do a two-dimensional array, right, where you have rows and columns, or X and Y. All right. So just look at our cars trucks array, the one that we have created above. Okay. Now, if you want to get the item man, right? Item man, right? So what we do is we just copy and paste, right? So the first list, right, is an index 0, right? The first item, the whole list is index 0. The second list is item index 1. Remember, Python starts with the index of 0. All right. So this is index 0, and then this is index 1. Right. So if you want to call main, we should call 1 first. All right, for the array. All right, the second the index 1, which is the second list. After that, within the second list, we want to call main, right, which is also the second index. Sorry, the second item, and the second item is index 1, right? So this is 1, right? Is the second item in the second list. So let's hit Shift Enter. Okay. If you want to get GMC, right, all you need to do is you go to the second item. Sorry, the second second array. No, second list. Right, second list, and then the third item. So for third item, you hit 2, and then you get GMC. All right. So that's how you call up the elements in the array. Right. Of course, there are other ways to manipulate the array. It can be append, clear, copy, and count. Right. You can actually apply some of these functions onto the array. All right. And for more, you can actually go to these links. Right. All right. To see the other examples. Right. So these are arrays. And the last part we're talking about will be plot. Basically, we plot charts, and the common package in Python to plot charts is a package called matplotlib, which we are going to use. Okay, so we are going to import matplotlib, which is the package, and then we and with the functions, right? pyplot, and we are going to give it an alias plt. All right, so this is basically import the package function. All right, after that, we create a variable called x, and x is basically we create a numpy within a range of values from -10 to 10 at an interval of 0.1. Right, so that's an array that we created for x. After that, we create another array for y. Y is simply numpy, and then using the sign function in numpy, and then we input the x inside the sign. And then after that, what we do is we will plot, right? This is a chart, and we call the plot sign, the plot function, right? If nothing, you will just give a line plot of x and y. All right. So let's copy this and then paste it here. And hit Shift Enter. Right. So you can see x is from -10 to 10 with an interval of with an incremental interval of 0.1. And then y is simply sine of x, right? So it's a curve. All right. So this is one of the simplest way to plot a chart, right? Of course, you can go into plot more charts when you go to this link, right? So for us today, we're going to use a data set, right? So that we can plot some charts, right? But before that, right, we want to import another package called pandas. Pandas is commonly used for data analysis, so we'll be using pandas very frequently in our course. All right, so we are going to import pandas as PD, which is the alias. After that, we are going to create a data, right, called housing data, where we use pandas to read the CSV file. So this CSV file is in the same folder. All right, it's in the same folder as my current Python file, so that you don't have to change directory. Right, so the file name is called housing data amk.csv. Right, so by running this line of code, we are basically importing the data. After that, all right, with this data, we use the methods called head, so that you allow us to see the headers or the column names. All right, so let's copy this. And then hit Shift Enter. So you can see for this housing data, so these are the column names. When you apply the head method, right, it'll give you the first 5 rows of the data, right? Essentially, it allows us to see what are the columns in this data. All right, so that's how we import data. We use pandas and then read the CSV file into the Python. Okay. Now the next part, we want to plot a histogram. All right. So first of all, we want to create a variable called resale price. And then this resale price is actually in our housing data, which the column is called resale price. Right. So if you go to our data set, we have a column called resale price. Yeah. Right. So we are calling out this column. Right. So with this column of data, we are going to separate them into 10 bins. Right. We are going to give a variable called number of bins, and we'll give it a value of 10. All right. Then after that, we are going to plot the chart using a histogram, right? So this is the plot and then dot method histogram. All right. With this histogram, it will output several things. It will output N, the bins, as well as the patches. All right. And for this histogram function, we call in the data resale price, which we have created here. And then we separate this resale price into num bins, which is 10 equal bins, right? Separate into 10 equal bins. And then the color of the chart, and we set it as 0. And we want the color to be red with a setting of 7. After that, the chart that we plot, which is PLT, we call the method X label, right? Basically, you want to label the X-axis as resale price. Then for the Y label, we want to rename it. We want to name it as frequency. And the title, we want to name it as histogram of resale price, 3-room HDB. And we want to bold it. And then finally, we want to show the chart, right? That's the method. Right, just copy and paste into Python and then hit Shift Enter. Right, so you can see that you have a histogram, right, broken down into 3 bins. Okay, and broken down into 10 bins, and then resale price on the x-axis, frequency on the y-axis, and then the title, right, on top, and it is red in color. Right, so that is a very simple way to plot a histogram. Right, the next one, we want to plot a scatter plot. Right, so now we call x. We create a variable called x, which itself is an array. And this x is basically the year column in our housing data. So year column is basically the last column, year. Okay. And then for y, we want to call it for our resale price. This is here. So we have x and y. Right. After that, we call a plot, right, with x and y. And then we want the color to be blue. And then we want a marker. Marker, that means each dot. In this case, is O. Right. The lifestyle, we leave it empty. Length, width, and marker size to be 12. After that, we have the x axis, we label it as year. Y-axis, we label it as resale price. And then the title, we have resale price for 3 rooms. Right, and then we have X ticks, meaning the X-axis, you have ticks, all right, to demarcate each interval. So as that for Y. All right, so let's copy this. And then paste it here. Okay, so this, right. So you can see, right, in 2017, this is the range of the resale price for 3-room in AMK. In 2022, this is the range of the resale price for 3-room HDB flat in AMK. All right, so that's how our scatter plot looks like. All right. So for this session, what we have done is we talk about the functions, and then we talk about how to define or create a user-defined functions. We look at some arrays. Basically, we employ the NumPy package. Right, after that, we look at some plots. We used the matplotlib package. We created a histogram as well as a scatter plot. All right. So below is the tutorial questions where you are to create a DBMI calculator and then to plot some charts. All right. So with that, I end. All right. Thanks for your attention.